All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. Today, we did an amazing podcast interview with Dr. Stephanie Dorworth, and we talked about a lot of things that you don't typically hear about. She has her own health journey, her own healing journey, which is remarkable just by itself. But we have somebody who was a physical therapist who has now become an online health coach and specialist in human design, and using that to make you a better person, help you be a better version of yourself, step into your purpose. And then she's able to kind of customize diet, workout, nutrition advice based off of what your human design profile is. Now, I don't typically tell you to do this, but there's going to be something that I want you to do before you listen to this podcast, because I think it'll really help you out. And I want you to go to Steph, STEPH, Dorworth, DORWORTH.com/quiz. Or you could drop down to the show notes there, click on that link. I want you to take your quiz. So you're just going to be putting your name, your year, the hour that you were born, place of birth, put in your email, and boom, it'll spit out the report and it'll give it to you. So you'll figure out what your human design is. So that way you'll be able to turn your listening ears on even more when she's talking about your specific human design type, and you'll be able to learn more about yourself. So without further ado, after you've got that quiz, go ahead, continue, press play, and enjoy this episode. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Doc Jacque Show. I got Doc Steph here today to share some amazing knowledge with you, something that we haven't yet talked about on the podcast. So, Dr. Steph, thank you so much for being on with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and hello, everyone. It's going to be an awesome episode, so stay tuned. Here we go.
Yeah, the whole way through. Don't you stop listening. Make sure you listen 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So, yeah. Dr. Stephanie, she got her doctorate in physical therapy and has done some phenomenal transitioning into something that most PTs wouldn't even probably think to pivot into. So she has a story that goes along with it. So who were you back then, and what made you transition into who you are today?
Yes. Okay. This story is long, but I will keep it short.
Nope, go as long as you want,
Yeah. I mean, I invested the majority of my life into becoming a physical therapist, right? As most of us do. I did 7.5 years of college to become a PT. And then after becoming a PT, started adding all that alphabet soup after my name, certifications, all these things to be the best PT I could be. And I did love it, but I also knew that it wasn't like something I was going to do forever. It didn't light me up in a way that the health field did. Yeah. And so I practiced physical therapy for 7 years, and I think I was pretty darn good at it, but I just didn't have like that fire within me. I knew I wanted to have my own business. And so I had my little side hustle health business on the side. And ultimately, once that started to take off, and that was like really what lit me up, and I was so excited to do that work on a daily basis, I decided to transition to doing that full time. So what got me from like this science-based PT job to more this online health business with human design on the side is really ultimately, it comes back to my own personal journey, right? So many of us, our businesses completely align with who we are. And me, Stephanie, was a totally different person 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I have just like transformed and gone through this deep, deep journey of just self-discovery and like figuring out who I am. And so that is what led me to leaving physical therapy to go to the health field, and then to begin to do even more soulful work to incorporate human design into my business. And I know that you have a very similar story, which is why you and I like connected right off the bat, right? Making that transition. So it's a very scary jump, but ultimately I knew deep down that I had to do it to truly feel like I was living a life that was in alignment with who I was and who I wanted to be and what my purpose was here on earth. And you can relate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you talked about how it didn't light you up. I would say in the last, and you've probably seen this with a lot of the people that you work with, but in the last like 2 or 3 years, really since COVID came, I feel like a lot of people have more time to self-assess their happiness, whether it's with their relationships, but more often I see a lot of people with their jobs. They're like, I get zero passion from what I'm doing anymore. Like I'm miserable. I don't want to wake up in the morning. And they're like, I think my adrenals are shot. I'm like, but how inspired are you to go out and work for somebody else? And they're like, ah. And I'm like, if I told you on a Monday morning, if you got up and went into the office that there was going to be $1 million sitting on your desk, would you go? Would you be happy? They're like, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm like, yeah. It's not that your adrenals are burnt out. You don't have passion. And so when you pursue passion, there's a lot of other things that will kind of align with you and kind of catapult you because you're living congruent with who you were really created to be. And that's where a lot of this human design kind of comes into place as well, where the more you step into your purpose, it feels really good. You might not know why, but you're going to know why when you listen to this entire episode.
Yeah, that was beautifully put. I agree. The human design is just like one additional tool that just helps us discover ourselves on a deeper level. And it provides us with so much information. But one of those is our strategy. And it's this feeling of what is like that deeper feeling to know if things are going right, if things are going how our life is supposed to be, or are things going wrong? So, for example, like I will get into this later, you guys, but in human design, there are 5 different energy types. And those of us who are generators or manifesting generators, and that's our 2 types. I'm a generator, you're a manifesting generator. Those of us with those types, we feel super satisfied when we're making decisions that align with like who we want to be and decisions and things that really light us up. But if we're making decisions that don't light us up, we're doing work that we don't enjoy, we have a job that we hate waking up for, we're going to feel really frustrated. And so, yeah, it just comes down to no matter what sort of field we're in, how many years we spent studying something, if it's not like that deep passion, like you said, that you just like are so like lit up and so just like feel like completely aligned with being that person, you're most likely going to feel that frustration if you're one of those types. It's just kind of like super fun to dive deeper into someone's chart because it gives you that very clear answer. If you're frustrated, well, you're not doing what you want. So it's time to like make a change, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to leave that as like a little teaser for them too, because we still have to get into your health journey because they want to know more. Let's talk more. So talk about your health journey, what you were going through and kind of what you did.
Yeah. So before we get into the human design details and the juicy gossip about it, I had basically like 2 things happen in my life on my health journey that were like these fire alarm moments. And I use that term because I heard you use that before and I loved it and it stuck. But one was in 2016, I looked like I was fit. I felt like I was a fit individual. I worked out and such. But I woke up one day with such bad stomach pain, got nauseous that we had to go to the hospital. And I went through all the normal tests, like the CT scan, the barium tests, blood tests, food allergy tests, everything. And they just were like, we think you have an obstruction. We don't really know. They wanted to like cut me open and just see. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. So ultimately, what I discovered from that like fire alarm moment was that even if I like felt and looked fine, that wasn't the beginning of my gut health issues. Like things were happening before that, but I just kind of like was like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just bloating or it's just stomach pain, like whatever. And that was like the last straw that led me to the hospital. And so I realized from that, you know, I need to start to take better care of myself, not just on that external physical level to look fit, but I also need to like feel fit and function really well. So I discovered that personally, my issue, I think, is a mold allergy. And guess what? I'm a huge cheese lover. Huge cheese lover. And I was
Yeah.
eating so much cheese. And the night before I had those severe pains, I had all this aged cheese,
Mm.
all the stuff that like you can just tell it don't look too
Yeah.
good.
It's extra moldy cheese. Yeah.
Extra mold, extra aged cheese, in addition to a glass or two of wine, as
Mhm.
you know, just like all this mold. And
Yep.
that's what probably led to my issue. So I realized, okay, I need to cut back on these like high moldy foods. And I also need to reduce my stress. I was feeling super, super stressed with work at that time.
Mhm.
And whenever stress levels creeped up, I noticed my bloating issues would get worse. So these were like my wake up calls. I know you had your own like wake up calls on your journey too. But for me, that was like, all right, Steph, it's time to like do some of the deeper work and not just eat healthy, but like really pay more attention to what foods I eat and not just work on my physical body, but work on my mind too. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to there. And then I'll mention just real quick, the other like fire alarm for me was in 2019. I had another like super stressful time in my life where there was like some trauma in my family. And for like 6 months straight, I was just like a huge ball of stress and anxiety, and my bloating came back. And it was like, this makes sense. My mind and my body and my soul are not cohesively like functioning as one unit right now. They are like just like going off like crazy. So personally, there's just been a lot of things that have led me from being more of a just physical, only externally focused person to also now incorporating the mind and the soul into my own personal journey, which has then translated into kind of bleeding into how I run my own business too. So that's how, long story short, that's what got me here to really focus more on the mind and soul aspect of health, because it's all one functioning unit, right?
Yeah, that's okay. So you said exactly. I'm like biting my tongue. I'm like, yeah, a lot of people, and even I remember I had a professor. It was at Penn State, and I was studying kinesiology major. I don't remember what the class was called. I just remember the professor. He was probably in his 70s, old, like very awesome dude. But we were talking about. He knew I wanted to be a chiropractor, and he was talking about how a lot of doctors have the mind body duality, where you either treat the mind or you treat the body, and you keep the parts separate. But they're not separate. They're one. We are one. And so anytime you try to treat one or the other, you're going to fail, or the results will be there for a minute and then boom, they'll come back again. So we have to remember the mind piece is so vitally important, but it is so often ignored or over medicated. When our mind is trying to process through something, most people run to the pharmacy to go to get something to shut their mind down. Well, why don't you take a second and say, well, why am I feeling this way? What is going on internally that may not understand? And what area do I need to look into so that way I can treat the body as a whole and get the results that we're looking for, And I also love, and I think we commented on this when I said I had a podcast about bodybuilding is basically terrible for you. And you're like, hey, I looked great. Like I looked great too when I was competing, but I don't think I was ever sicker in my life back then. And I was eating healthy. I was exercising. I was doing all of the things that all the health gurus would tell you to do: eat right, exercise, do cardio, get good sleep at night. I did all of that and my body fell apart. And I didn't understand why at the time, but that's why I got into what I do now. So judging your health off of how you look or how you feel, to me, is it's a prehistoric way to analyze your health. Right? Because health is defined as 100% function of all of the organs functioning 100% at 100%, 100% of the time. So even if we have, 20% damage to our liver, but our liver enzymes aren't high, we still have to make sure we're paying attention, not doing things until we get caught, which is when the symptoms ultimately spill over. And then we're like, oh crap, now what do I do? Do I go back to the same lifestyle that made me sick, or do I make that pivot, listen to my body, and do something with it? So there was a lot in what you said that's awesome.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And something that you said in one of the other podcasts that you did, which which are all amazing, by the way,
Thank you.
was, and I wrote it down, it was health is not how you look or feel, it's how you function.
Mhm.
And I had to write that down because that's such a good reminder, especially for so many of my clients. They come to me, like feeling like, all right, well, I feel like crap, but all I need to do, Stephanie, is I just need to lose 10 pounds and then I won't feel like crap. I'll just like all of a sudden lose weight and then I'll feel confident and happy. And I'm like, no, 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 no. We need to actually work on more than just how you look. You've got to do those mindset shifts so you can learn how to actually feel confident no matter how you look, right?
Mhm.
There's so much more than just your exercise routine and your eating or, like how you look at a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's all about, is everything functioning as one? And when one piece of the puzzle is missing, things are not going to function as optimally as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an intricate system, and
Mm-hmm.
because like my wife plays guitar, I used to play bass guitar. We're like a very like
Oh,
we're musically inclined, and to
okay.
me, when one of the organ systems is out of whack, it's like having a guitar string that's out of tune. And you
Yeah.
still keep trying to strum it. And even though you're hitting all the other ones that are in tune, that one is the only one you focus on. You're like, oh, that sounds terrible. And then you have to tune that one. You can try to fix the other ones that are already in tune, but that's not going to do anything until you go back and boom. And then everything strums in a harmonious way. So same thing with the body. We have to tune, we have to calibrate, and it's not a one size fits all. And going nerdy into guitars, not all guitars sound the same. So not all people sound the same or resonate the same. So, it's just a lot of different things that you can really pull from that, yeah, health is not just how you look or how you feel. And I mean, really, I think COVID kind of taught all of us that. Like we all thought we were healthy for a second, and we were told to fear something, which then killed our immune system by fearing something like that. And then everybody got hit, and it was just, yeah. Anyways, not to go off on tangents.
Yeah, that got pretty nerdy for a second, but I do like the example.
Yeah. I was trying to pull in an analogy and I'm like, I went too deep on that. But
no, it was good. It was good.
Yeah. So going back into your health journey there. So you went everywhere, you kind of did everything that you were, most people would typically do. And then you made a pivot. So this pivot into what you're doing now. What were the things that you utilized? What were these new tools that you acquired along the way to help you on this health journey?
So I realized that I had a very masculine energy when it came to anything in life. I'm all about strategy, to-do lists, organizing, building this business. And there was zero feminine energy of paying attention to how I felt, my emotions, tapping into my creative side, figuring out who I truly am. There's none of that. So I went through this self-discovery journey where I was trying to figure out, all right, who is Stephanie? It was in the middle of COVID. It was early 2020-ish. And I was doing all this reading, listening to podcasts, trying to figure out, who am I? Because I was feeling a little bit lost going through this transition, to a completely different career that was just more fully online, not going into my PT office anymore. So I was transitioning, and I realized that I needed to figure out who I was. And the one tool that kept popping up was human design. So for those of you who have never heard of human design, don't worry. I was in the same boat. I'm what is this craziness? I never really quite got into astrology and then human design. Enneagrams are all these different tools just for self-discovery. So I was I'm a little skeptical, but I'm just going to stay open-minded and let me just learn about it. Let me just see if it sounds right. So I pulled my human design chart, which you can do for free online. There's so many options to get a free chart. And I started reading up about it and just taught myself all about human design. And I still have more to learn. It's just this whole new world, but it really solidified for me what my purpose in life is, and that I am making decisions that align with who I want to be. Even if it seems scary at the moment, I'm going the right direction. So with human design, you guys, it can basically tell you just essentially who you were born to be. It takes your exact birth time and location, and it pulls this chart, and it's a combination of astrology and astronomy and the human chakras to kind of determine like what your energy type is, what sort of decision making feeling you can honor, what sort of a digestion style is strongest for you, meaning how do you best learn and how do you best digest food. Like there's so many things your human design chart can tell you. And so that was the tool that I found a few years back that just like opened my eyes to this whole new world of figuring out who I am. And the more and more I learned, the more I realized, wow, a lot of this not only can tell you about your life and relationships and business, but a lot of it links back to your health. So that's kind of that unique specialty I've started to just dive deeper into, is like figuring out how can I help my clients and the people that listen to me and follow me, how can I help them better know themselves and align their health with their human design, align their exercise, their eating, their self-care routine, all of that, just so that life just feels a lot more like everything's in complete alignment and it's no longer as hard. It makes life so much easier when you just like better understand yourself and better understand, all right, what sort of like health routine is going to match my energy. Make sense? So can I just like pause for a second and can you just share with me like how you guys learned about human design and got into it and what your thoughts were at first?
Yeah. So when oh my gosh, I want to say this was probably, it would have been before our daughter was born.
Okay.
Which was before COVID. It would have been like 2019, probably like early 2019.
Okay.
And Megan was doing a course. She did a course with Taylor Simpson. It's this Ascend course that she did. And I don't know if Taylor was talking about it at the time or not, but I think that's where Megan got the idea from. And then she randomly, she was like, I printed out my human design. I'm like, what the heck is a human design? Like,
yeah.
What is that? Like, can you print out a human design? Like, what is it? A blueprint? Like your leg is here? Like, is it like, what is this? So she prints out her chart and she's like starting to read it and she's like getting teary eyed. I'm like, what's going on? And she starts reading it out loud. And I'm like, what did you talk to, like, how did this, like, this sounds exactly like you, like, how did this person know this? And she's like, no, it was like, she found somebody that puts like, basically all we'll probably end up talking today, like in a book or of sorts. And basically like, it's, hey, that's you, learn about yourself. Yeah. And so from there, I'm like, I'm like, hers was like really spot on. So she was like, would you like me to do one for you? And I'm like, sure. She didn't get me the book of it, but she got like the main stuff, like the meat and potatoes, I guess, of it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, And I was like I told you, like, I usually don't fit into like any of like the astronomy or astrology or any of that stuff. Yeah. Like my signs, like I'm all over the place. And this was the first thing I'm like, I know there are some areas where I'm reanalyzing reassessing my life. I'm like, I used to do that a lot and that brought me a lot of joy. I'm not doing it anymore, but that's like my human design. I'm like, that's interesting. Like when we talked about exercise, like I used to love working out, 6-7 days a week. Like I used to be obsessed with it. And then not to use kids as an excuse, but when we had kids, like I was trying to help out more and be like a more like working, but stay at home dad. So I sacrificed my gym routine. And then the past couple of weeks, I've been going almost every day and I feel fantastic. I'm like, son of a biscuit. Like, are you kidding me? So like, I got curious about it and then I got busy with like work and stuff again. And then I stumbled across you there and then I saw you doing it. I'm like, but you put a different spin on it. Like a lot of people, from my experience, like they want to figure out who they are, but they don't necessarily, I've never heard somebody talk about digestion and your human design and like needing a calm environment or being fine if a spoon's flying across the room. Like nobody's ever really analyzed it that way. So you come at it with like a very unique perspective, which I think can really be impactful, not just with who I work with, but even people that I don't work with. They might just be listening to this podcast. And I really want people to be open to this because it does seem very abstract. I know a lot of times, like when I post about the spiritual side of things, I'll have certain religious people who will come after and like try to attack me and be like, that's, whatever. I'm like, no, it's how we were created. Like, how are you going to be mad about it? But anyways, that's how I kind of got steeped in human design. My wife kind of brought me into it, and now I'm just super curious about it again.
Oh, okay. I love hearing that. And I love how deeply she connected with hers. But it's also a great lesson. So for anyone that pulls their chart, if things sound like completely spot on, like, yes, this is me, then that's amazing. You're probably already living a lot of in alignment with your human design then, right? But for those of us who noticed a few things here and there in our chart that don't sound right, that's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And actually, I think it's kind of cool because it allows you to take a minute and assess, all right, why is this piece not accurate about me? Was I conditioned to believe differently, or did my parents raise me in a way that led me down a slightly different path than who I was actually born to be, right? And so I don't like to use the human design chart as all right, let's put a poster on the wall and this is who you need to be or else you suck as a person. Like that's not how it goes. I just like to use it as a guide. It's guiding you on your journey, and it's just going to help pinpoint some strengths that you have, some weaknesses that you have, and how can you maybe just improve your life a little bit so everything is just functioning better. So as we get into talking about all the human design types, just remember that this is not like boxing you guys in. It's not saying we are all like this, like all of us are either this type or this type. It's just a way for us to get to know ourselves better and just to sit down and take that intentional time to figure out what we love about ourselves and what can maybe be improved, right? Mm-hmm. So what we could do, I want to give like a very brief summary of the human design energy types. If you want to do that next, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
So since I was talking about like not boxing you guys in, I do want to share that there are 5 main energy types, or kind of like these different levels of energy that we are categorized in. But please don't feel like it's just like boxing you into that. It's just overall based on the chart and the 9 centers in the chart. Depending on which ones are colored in and which ones are open, it classifies us as one of these 5 types. So the 5 types are generator, manifesting generator, manifestor, projector, and reflector. I'll start by saying that the 2 most common types are the generator and the manifesting generator, which you guys can hear from both of those people today, both of us. I'm the generator, you're the manifesting generator. They're the most common. They make up about 70% of the population. So most of you listening today on the podcast probably fall into one of those 2 categories. But the other ones, manifestor, projector, and reflector, they make up the rest, and they're much more rare, but really amazing, like magical beings. And so we will touch on that, but it's just not as common that people fall into those categories. Generators, and I'm going to say I a lot because I'm a generator, we are like a very high energy being. We tend to have a lot of energy. And when we do the work we love, we can go, like an Energizer bunny nonstop. We are like I can sit down and I can work for 12, 14 hours, no problem. My husband, Stephanie, I'm like, no, why? Like, I'm so into this. Like, I love doing what I do, But at the same time, if we're doing work that we don't love, that doesn't light us up, we're going to feel very frustrated. Our strategy is that we're going to feel that frustration, and it's going to lead to burnout. It is going to take all of our energy because we give so much to what we do, and it's just going to completely like drain the tank. So it's super important that we only say yes to things that light us up, that make us really excited and such. So I want to share with you guys how this applies to health, because this is like what I'm super passionate about, is taking this different spin on it and not just telling you like how to live your life according to your human design, but also like how to live a healthier life. So for human design generators like me, when it comes to exercise, we have so much energy that we have to get it out. Like if we go a few days in a row where we get in zero exercise, we're going to feel like we have too much. And it's really hard for us to just like take a nap or go to sleep because we have so much extra energy. So generators, it's really important to exercise pretty often on a regular basis, even if it's just going on a walk, going on a bike ride. Something needs to be done on a pretty regular basis to get the energy out. And then as far as the type of exercise goes, it's really important that we choose exercise that we love, that lights us up. So if I have a client I'm working with and she says, Stephanie, I hate running, but I love lifting, I'm going to have her lifting most of the time. And I'm probably never going to make her run, because if I do, she's going to hate it and she's not going to stick to it. And so it's not going to get us the results we want. Right. So that's how you can apply generators to exercise, is make those decisions doing exercise you love and do it pretty freaking often. Okay. Whew. Now, as far as eating goes, same thing applies to that. Generators, you need to be eating food that you love. Eating foods that you don't like just because you feel like you have to is not going to work out. For example, I used to do the bikini competition world too. And my coach is like, Stephanie, you need to have a grapefruit each morning. And I'm like, what? I hate grapefruit. Like it makes me want to throw up. Like it's so disgusting. And I realized that I'm just not made for following a meal plan. I need to eat foods I like. So I found flexible dieting much better for me. And generators are the same way. You've got to be able to eat the foods that you like most of the time to enjoy your diet and therefore be able to stick to it, sustain it, and get the results that you want. So it's super important that generators eat plenty of food to keep their energy high, and also choose foods that they feel really satisfied with, that truly like make them feel like, oh, that was worth it. That was a great meal, you know?
Yeah.
So that is essentially what we've got to do as generators. And the last thing I'll point out about generators is that we have trouble turning off sometimes. So a lot of the generators I work with, we tend to be so go, go, go that it's like hard for us to just like, I mean, you can probably just tell right now. I'm just like, I can talk about this for hours and I'm like, right, it's hard.
It's all good.
Chill and just like take a minute to myself. So it's really important that we honor our mind and our soul, and on a very regular daily basis, take time to turn the mind off, meditate, journal, do whatever we need to do to just like reset and have a little bit of peace and quiet before we turn on and keep going. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So let's go ahead and shift focus and talk about the second human design type, which is manifesting generators. And this is what you are. So you'll have fun with this one and kind of see if it sounds right. If it doesn't, you let me know. Okay.
Okay.
So manifesting generators are a combination of generators and manifestors. You guys tend to be a higher energy being as well, but you tend to have a lot more sporadic energy. So a little bit more up and down, and you tend to be interested in a lot more things. Like maybe 1 month you're like super into playing guitar, and then maybe the next month you just don't have the energy for it. Or you're like, oh, this actually seems cool. Let me try this new hobby. Like there's a little bit more experimentation possibly in manifesting generators. So when it comes to your energy and working out, you very much so need to work out regularly to get out a lot of that generator energy. Like I said before, like otherwise you might have trouble turning off, trouble sleeping and such. But here's the twist on it. Since you have that manifestor side, you might want to allow some room for magic, is what I like to say. Like allow some room for flow. Maybe not quite as much structure. Like for you, maybe it's not, okay, 6 days a week where I have to go to the gym. Maybe it's 5 days a week where I go to the gym, and the sixth day, maybe I kind of just like go with the flow of whatever I'm feeling like doing that day. Maybe it's a yoga class, maybe it's a meditation class, maybe it's just going on a walk with the kids and the family or whatever. So it's nice for manifesting generators to have a little bit of flexibility with their workout schedule to kind of like feed into what they are enjoying at the moment, because it may be changing from week to week or month to month. So when you apply that to you, how does that sound? Does any of that like resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, from the exercise standpoint and the sporadic energy bursts, like yeah, like I've got like a successful hold on like ADHD, like and a successful is like I can dive down the rabbit hole. Prime example, I just had 6 new books that my buddy recommended to me just get sent over to me, and so now I'm doing deep dives into some more of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I get obsessed over here. And then I like a couple months back, I was obsessed with Norse mythology and learning more about that stuff. So
cool.
So I get obsessed quite often, and I consume and consume because it brings me a lot of enjoyment. When it comes to the gym, getting back, like I said, getting back in the gym, couple things like I work from home. So I wake up from my bed that's in my home. I come downstairs, I help out with the kids, come over here into my office, then I'm in the house. And if I don't leave the house because I don't need to, then my energy tends to get drained because the only social interaction I have is my wife and 2 kids. And not that I don't love them, they're my world, but to be able to get out and exchange energy with other people, whether it's verbally saying hi or just creating new atmospheres, I really enjoyed that. And then when you brought up the creative flow, my creative juices like always flow when I'm coming back from the gym, like every single time. So like I get my workout in and immediately I'm messaging my social media manager. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And we're just boom, 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 back and forth. So like I get into my flow states like that. And then in terms of variability of exercise, I'm laughing because again, from an obsessive nature, I randomly bought a longboard. I used to skateboard when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I bought a longboard and I don't know how to use the dang thing, but I was like, I used it once going down one of the trails, almost wrecked. I'm like, all right, I'm going back home now. But like, I wanted to be able to do that in like a new kind of enjoying way. We have mountains all around us in Arizona. So I also enjoy going hiking. So there'll be days where we'll go on a morning walk. We have a trail right outside of our house, or at nighttime, we'll go for a walk or we'll go swim with the kids or something. So having that chaos, that beautiful chaos of, I'm going to the gym, but then on top of that, I like to try to mix some other things into it. It is really enjoyable. And the more that I do it, the better I feel. And I have noticed as well, my energy, anybody that knows, like you're talking about your energy, like that's my energy all the time. Like I don't shut up. Like I just keep going. It's annoying at times. And I'm like, just calm down. But it has a tendency to carry over. Like after the kids are down, my energy ramps up again. I'm like, okay, creative processes. And then if I don't calm myself down, I'm not going to sleep because I'm going to be mulling over like, okay, I can strategically do this thing. What about this idea? Or maybe I need to read this book, or maybe I shouldn't have read that book tonight. Maybe I should read this one. And so since getting the gym in again, getting back into that routine, I've got an Aura ring on. It's been tracking my sleep, and my heart rate variability has also been improving. And I haven't done anything different in terms of supplements or anything else. So the only thing that's changed was moving more into that human design.
So it sounds like you're really stepping into alignment with everything, having a little bit of that structure, but also a little bit of space for flow. And I also love that you honored that feeling. Like it was probably just like this deep gut feeling of like longboarding. Oh yeah. Like I want to do that. I'm just going to try it. You're living in alignment. And that's something, looking at your human design chart, that makes sense. And that's amazing because that's probably going to really light you up. And who knows if it's going to just be for a month or 2 or a year, but you're honoring those like deeper desires to kind of experiment and figure out what works for you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Awesome. And what's interesting is that you are like such a high energy being, like go, 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 trying new things, hard to turn off. But your wife is very opposite with her energy, right?
Yep.
So let's transition to talk about projectors then.
Okay.
Projectors, that is what the type that your wife is. And they are much more rare beings. They only make up around like 8% of the population. So you've got a special one.
She's special.
I hope to meet her someday. I was like so excited to meet her.
Yeah.
But she is much more lower energy being. And so when she pulled her human design chart and was like crying and really connecting with it, it was probably a huge sigh of relief to realize, hey, I'm a little different than everyone else, and I need to learn how to honor that. And that's one of my favorite people to work with when I get to work with projectors with the online coaching, is because they feel like they always have to keep up with everyone else. And once they learn their human design, they realize, oh, I'm actually unique, and I need to really figure out a health program that's going to align with me and not like force me to do too much and go beyond my boundaries. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So like projectors in general, I like to think of them as like these birds. Like they're just like these beautiful birds that see things from a bird's eye view and see things in a different way than most people. So for them, they tend to be lower energy beings. So they wake up and they maybe aren't feeling like that energy that you and I feel. They're more just kind of like this chill individual most of the time. And they also may struggle to work for a full day. They may do better working just a half of day. I mean, working, and then she's raising the kids and all that stuff, right? But like projectors, when they learn to honor that energy, they learn how important it is to have the time to recharge. They can go and they can do their exercise and they can work and they can do what they need to do. But then when they're home, it's super important that they're in an environment that is most ideal for them, but that they also take the time to just kind of like turn off and recharge and give themselves what they need to like refuel for the next day. So when it comes to exercise and working out, this is where we usually make a lot of changes with them. Instead of having them work out for like an hour long, that's probably going to super drain them. Instead, I tend to have them do shorter workouts, 20 to 40 minutes or so. And I have them do the workouts on a more frequent basis because they're getting these short workouts in. I might have them work out 5-6 days a week, right? In addition to that, I like to keep the intensity of their exercises a little bit lower. So they're not out there doing high intensity plyometric work. It's more low intensity, moderate intensity exercise. Lifting is totally cool, but maybe it's more like yoga or Pilates or a bike ride or something, right? So that tends to work better for them, just so they're not like completely drained and exhausted and like trying to keep up with generators and manifestors and manifesting generators. So can I just like ask you real quick, does that sound like her? And is she feeling better now that she's realized that and learned that about her human design?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that I've seen that kind of goes into that. So we've noticed that, and to be honest, I forgot about some of the qualities of like the energy side of things with the projector, but
yeah,
I have noticed in, I would say the past 2 weeks or so, like she's really been stepping into her own. She's doing her own business and doing like these events, doing breath work and sound healing and stuff. And it's like, it was really funny. It's not, yeah, it was funny. She did a big event and she came back and she was like super, super, super like stoked, high energy. She's like, I'm anxious. Like I have so much energy. And it was like 9:30 at night, which is like when we typically are like phasing out to go to bed. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, you kind of stepped into your purpose and you're around some people, but you had like a good experience. Plus you were doing sound bowls. So like you were also being subjected to those healing frequencies. So like, it was awesome. And then she had an example where she went out and she was trying to be more extroverted. and it was burning her energy. And then she would come home and she was like, oh, I'm exhausted for like the rest of the day. And I'm like, well, just read a book or just relax, kick up your feet, take a nap, whatever, like just relax. And then she would do that and her energy would go up again. And like, she'll light up on those things. So it's like the small little tweaks of, like preserving the energy, know how your body responds, like being in tune with that can really be key with projectors. The exercise thing, we were literally just talking about that too, potentially switching gym memberships and stuff to fit the more the projector lifestyle. Like for me, I love the weights. For her, she likes the weights, but also used to do like high intensity workouts, but that doesn't appeal to her. And we were like, well, what do you want to do? You want to do Pilates, bar? Like what is it that you want to do? And then let's start making a routine out of it. Do whatever you want and see how your body responds to it, both physically, but also emotionally and energetically. So,
yeah. Okay, awesome. I love that you, not only is she learning more about herself, but you are learning more about her.
Yeah.
Best honor her energy and support her. Like, that's amazing that you're taking the time to do that. And I know from reading her chart, I don't want to like go into too much detail, but I know she's an organizer like me. And so that structure of like, all right, here's my Monday through Friday workout plan. I think that would be perfect for her. So love that.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I briefly want to share about eating for projectors, because that also has to be tweaked a little bit. So when it comes to eating, projectors tend to do better eating more frequent, smaller meals. Now we know from the science that really it doesn't matter so much like how many meals a day we eat, really. Of course, it's your overall like calories and your food choices that matter most. But I have found that with projectors, they have told me, and I've noticed that most of them feel really drained when they eat super large meals. It's like this big meal takes so much of their body's energy to break it down and digest it, and then they need a nap. And it's like, no. For projectors and also reflectors, the last very rare type, they need to have like these smaller meals so it doesn't drain them so much. And it's just like a nice light meal. And maybe they're having it more often, tends to work for them. Things like fasting probably wouldn't work well, where they were going a long period of time not eating, doing the intermittent fasting stuff. They tend to need to just eat more regularly to keep that energy at least as high as they can keep it. Cool. So we've talked about, just to recap, we've talked about generators, manifesting generators, which is you are, and projectors. So we have two types left. The fourth one is manifestors. Manifestors, they make up 21% of the population. And these are the people that get things done. They're the people, they don't need to just wait around and respond or work so hard. They just know what they need to do. And they just need to inform others like, hey, I know what to do. Here we go. I'm going to do this. And they typically have like the motivation to go out and get things done. They're the people that are inventing things and coming up with all these new innovative ideas in life. And so because of that, they tend to be pretty like independent with their health routine. So oftentimes, like I just like empower them to step into what feels right for them. They know that they need to be exercising regularly. They know that they need to be eating foods that make them feel good and don't drain them. They know that they need to focus on themselves and some self-care time. And so it's more just about like giving them some structure and empowering them to step into that and do things consistently, build these healthy habits that they consistently like stick to. So I don't really need to go into much detail with manifestors because it's like they're the informers in the human design world. So they're just going to go get things done. And that's that. So yeah.
Love it.
We'll keep that short. And then going into the last final one, reflectors, they only make up like 1% of the population. So I will also keep this one short because they're super rare beings, but they tend to be people that are like a mirror. So they kind of reflect what the people and environment that they're around reflects off of them. They feel things very deeply. They tend to be empaths. They feel super deeply and they absorb all the energies from everyone around them, which can be I'm sure, tough to manage. So it's super important for them to take time to like detach and release all the energies they picked up throughout the day and to just like honor themselves and do things that just kind of like calm them and ground them. So when it comes to a health routine for a reflector, they can go do whatever workouts they want to do, but it's really important that when they're done with that, they take the time to go be alone and like recharge and release whatever, if there were any negative emotions or any negativity in the environment, to just release it afterwards. The same thing goes with eating for reflectors. Like they really need to eat foods that make them feel good, and they need to just like stay flexible with their eating, with their food choices and such. So yeah, I will leave it at that. Keep that one simple. I will mention that, once again, you can go get your free chart and dive deeper into any of them. Human design is such like a beautiful world of, like I said, learning about just who you're born to be, but it also can tell you a lot more about life, relationships, how you best communicate, how you can best live. It can tell you your digestion style. There's 12 digestion styles. It can tell you your strongest sense. There's a lot. So if you have any interest in human design, any of you that are listening, go pull up your chart and just start reading and learning. And it's probably going to inspire you to keep going even deeper into your chart, because you're going to have like this awakening of feelings and emotions and just feeling like, oh, wow, I really know who I am now. Right.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, the more you dive into it too, like there's so many different layers. There's like your typical like superficial type charts. You're like, okay, there it is. And then there's numbers attached to certain things. And then you're like, oh, what's that mean? And then you go and look what that means. And what's this over here? And so it does, for me, it becomes like this obsessive thing where you're like, okay, I want to know everything about it because it's curious about it. And so this is also where I delegate because I'm not an expert in it. I'm curious about it, but I'm not. So if somebody is and you pull up your chart and you have questions, please don't come to me. I won't know how to answer that. Go to Stephanie. She'll help you to be able to best understand that. And then with the human design charts, like what is it that you can offer the listeners in integration of this? Like, how do you coach, or how can people reach out to you to get coaching on implementing this into their lifestyle?
Yeah, I've got a lot of resources on my website for anyone who wants to check that out. There's some blogs that are for free on there. You can also go to my website, and I have a free quiz on there to get your human design chart and to get some little notes about your health routine based on it. That's going to be stephDorworth.com/quiz, and you can enter your birth information and get all of that for free. But essentially, yeah, I like to, when I get to see someone's human design chart, I love to do like full hour-long readings if anyone's interested. But I also will do that with any clients that sign on for like health coaching with me. We'll do a full reading so we can get to know each other better, and I can get to know their needs better and figure out what health routine is going to best align with your human design chart.
Yeah, I love that. And again, because we did like a prep call for this, but what we talked about is how unique your strategies are for who you work with, for your clients. It's not a one size fit all. It's not your typical bodybuilding or bikini diet where like you eat this, and if you can't eat it, too bad, eat it anyways. Like there's some fluidity to it. And again, matching your human design, your digestion style. Like, again, if you can sit down and calm and eat, great. If you can't, then so there's all of these little pieces that come together and form one giant piece of how this can really truly impact your life. So I would say really for a lot of, like the way I see this, a lot of former competitors or former dietaholics, like that are just obsessed with dieting, and you're stuck and you're like, man, I'm trying to get a grasp of this and I can't, or I've tried everything that's out there. Try this. Try adding your human design profile into how you're approaching your health and your lifestyle. And I mean, honestly, what do you have to lose? It can only benefit you. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you support that, because I too believe that everything in life is so much more successful when it's completely customized to you and it just like feels like the perfect fit. Mm-hmm. I really love to not only use science to help with my clients, but also their human design to just even more customize everything to exactly their needs. Because a client is going to be much more likely to stick to a program and enjoy it and love it. And it's going to feel so easy when it's made for them. It's not just a cookie cutter program. It's not something they just pulled off YouTube or off Google. It's like completely customized to them. It's going to be much more successful. And as, you know, people in the health industry, as coaches, as doctors, like we love when someone fully, like everything in their routine, their mind, their body, their soul aligns, and we can start to see that in them. Mm-hmm. That's what lights us up. And then we are even happier, right? So I'm so glad that you had me on today, and thank you so much. And I'm really glad that anyone here listening was introduced to the human design world, because it's a beautiful journey to go down. And if anyone needs any help, please reach out, just DM me on Instagram, and I'm happy to chat further.
Awesome. And again, thank you for being on here today. We'll make sure that we put all the show notes and where people can find you. We'll put one for the quiz, your Instagram profile, everything. So hopefully you just get flooded with with interest here after this podcast release. So thank you again for being on. And until next time, man.